Trying to do the damn thing, man. Glad to be back here on the second time.
Welcome back. It's a brand new episode. This is Laugh With Me, a podcast with Jeremy Odom. I'm your host, J.O. It is good to be here. It has been tumultuous. Is that how you say that? Tumultuous. Is that? I promise you I'm saying that incorrectly. Tumultuous. It's been a rough stretch here since our last episode. I'm leaving that in because I want people to tell me, did I say it correctly or did I say it incorrectly? But I think you understand where I'm going with this. Since our last episode, about a week, almost a week and a half ago, in that time frame, I had a fantastic recording with our special guest this week, Lavetti Vegas. He is a stand-up comic, writer, actor out of Omaha, Nebraska, and we've had some debate on releasing the episode. I consider him a friend. It's been a good, I don't know, it was a very good conversation. He's been on the show before. You've heard him. He was one of our first guests that we've had here on Laugh With Me, and we've had great rapport. We've been on a show together. It's been awesome. We had some back and forth. We're going to get into that, but and give you guys a taste of what you were missing out on, because it's good. I'm telling you, he's got a lot to say, and we here at Laugh With Me wanted to make sure he had his platform to be able to say and speak his mind. This is a safe space. I just want to put that out there right now. Laugh With Me is a safe space for the people. Anybody who comes on the show, I just want you to know you're in good hands. We're going to take care of you here. We're gonna chat. We're going to have conversations. We're going to tell stories. We're going to laugh. We're going to tell jokes. And it's going to be awesome. Sometimes, hey, I work out some new material. In the future, I'd like those guests to laugh at those said jokes. The ones in the past, I don't think you wanted to. That's okay. That's part of the process. I'm working on that. That's more on me. I need to make those jokes funnier, I think. But remember, it's the first time I'm working them out. But that's neither here nor there. That is not why we are here today. Today we're here to discuss the Lavetti Vegas Part 2 episode. The Lost episode, as it's been now called. The Lost episode. Actually, we're not even going to get into it yet, because I want to talk about hosting. We just had the Academy Awards. Last episode, Grant Pearson Part 2, we broke down the Academy Awards, the Oscars. It was fantastic. What a great show. One of the best productions by the Academy in a long time. And Jimmy Kimmel hosted. I felt like he did a great job. He was entertaining. He was straight to the point. He kept the show moving. He had great bits throughout. Some memorable moments. Okay, we had Ryan Gosling performing with, I don't know, it felt like 100 people performing I'm Just Ken. What a moment. John Cena, reminiscent of the famed streaker incident from years ago. He came out and presented an award naked. John Cena, of all people. But, it was Jimmy Kimmel's bits. It was Jimmy Kimmel's, the way he commands the room that I took the most from. And something that really, it made me think, like, it's tough to host that room, right? Like, in fact, just, a couple of months ago, during the Golden Globes, Joe Coy, he was the host. It didn't go so well. The laughs didn't hit. After the show, he blamed it on the audience a bit. Which, as a comic, you don't blame the audience. That's on you, right? Here, in fact, just a couple months ago, I talked to stand-up comedian Zach Peterson about this very thing, and here's what he had to say. To your point that the audience decides, Joe Coy, hosted the Golden Globes and has been blaming the audience that his monologue jokes didn't hit. And I found that very interesting because I've never really heard somebody, I guess, of his stature come out and be like, the audience just wasn't it tonight.
Right. And who knows, man? Like I've never hosted any Golden Globes or
Right.
anything like that. Who knows what that's like?
So you're right. I mean, you don't know. So it got me thinking. It's probably one of the harder things to do because you have to entertain the millions watching at home who have nothing to do with the awards. But at the same time, you have to entertain the people that are in the room watching you that you are actually the one talking about. And there's really not another dynamic quite like it. I mean, can you imagine, at your workplace, the boss is, hosting a staff meeting and he starts cracking jokes, as bosses do, except they're more like roast than they are jokes. I mean, he's there to like kind of lighten the mood, but he's doing it in a way that he's attacking you. I mean, can you imagine if that was the same case? I mean, it's exactly like an award show. If the boss looks, he's in front of his staff and he's like, good to see JT's here. JT reminds me a lot of John Cena when he's at work. You can't see him. I mean, that's what it would feel like. It would suck. So I understand when Jimmy Kimmel makes a joke about Emma Stone and she's like, she turns to her guest and is like, what a jerk. She probably doesn't think he's a jerk. I mean, she's probably friendly with Jimmy Kimmel, at least it appears so. But, you're sitting in a room. It's a big night for you, for your career. You're being, recognized for the hard work you did. It's one of the best in your business. And, he's taking shots. He's trying to entertain the millions watching at home, not necessarily the room in front of him. But he's got to try to do that too. So it's a tough gig. So I guess I understand kind of now a little bit after seeing Joe Coy and then after seeing Jimmy Kimmel and kind of thinking about it, kind of understanding where Joe Coy's coming from. But I think he needs to play it more like Jimmy Kimmel and just not care really what the room says. Who cares? You're entertaining the millions watching at home, and that's really why you're hosting in the first place. But great show. If you did listen to last week's episode, Grant Pearson Part 2, and heard our Oscars breakdown, Grant was right on a lot of categories. In fact, in our yearly pool that we do where we kind of pick the winners and predict, and it ended up Grant and I finished second place in our group picking. His wife, Kathy, actually won this year and had the most picks. She had 18 of the 23 categories. She had 18 correct, that's pretty impressive. I'll get it next year. I think if I watched all the movies like Grant did, or at least 8 out of the 10 Best Picture nominees, that maybe I'd have a shot at winning this thing. But I'm going to give it a go. And I think I'd like to throw my hat in and host an award show of some type someday. And obviously, I'm not in any position to be hosting the Academy Awards or the Golden Globes. I mean, no one knows who I am. But, I'd like to host an award show of some type. I think I could write some quips, That'd be fun. I certainly wouldn't care what the people thought of me after. I would definitely be able to entertain the masses with it and move on from it. But it would be fun. I'm telling you that right now. It'd be a good time. But until then, I'm just going to have to continue to write my quips about my coworkers. All right. Well, now it's on to our special guest, Lavetti Vegas. It's the second time he's been on the show. Let me give you the background on this, okay? This has been a long time coming. We tried to schedule this. We tried to schedule this episode and get it recorded probably over a month before we actually recorded at the beginning of March. And we, schedule conflicts, both sides. Things would come up. We'd have a date and time set, and then, he wanted to go hit an open mic. Cool. I get it. And I, with working super early in the morning, 4 a.m. comes pretty quick. So it's like, well, I don't really want to stay up until after he's done at the open mic, because who knows how long that's going to take. So we were just trying to find, happy medium on when we can actually record, which is fine. We'll make it work. And we finally get our date and time, right? We're ready to go. Then something else came up, like literally within a half hour of when we were going to record. But like moments before that time, he sent me a message, and it's like, all right, he's at home. We can do this. I'm like, perfect. Let's go. Like, we're going to get this thing knocked out. So I got set up. I got ready to record. I call him, and we are good to go. And I'll tell you what, it was a fun conversation. We had a great time. We talked about comedy. We talked about the Omaha comedy scene. We talked about Lincoln comedy scene, the Des Moines comedy scene. We just talked about marketing as a stand-up comic. We talked about comedy in general. We talked about sketches and different shows that maybe he's thinking about and he's going to be creating, which is awesome. I'm proud of him. And it was probably a 2-hour conversation that we had that would have been a fun and at times explosive podcast. And the reason why it would have been explosive, I'll tell you guys what, any of you that follow Lavetti on his socials, particularly on Facebook, you know that at times he brings the heat. When if there's something that's on his mind, he brings it to the public, and he's not afraid to put it out there, especially if there's a conflict. And I admire that about him. If there's something that is bothering him, he puts it out there, especially if the other side won't discuss. I think some things obviously should be left private. That's obvious, right? But in this case, it's something that was, there are things that are already out in the public, things that are already of public, in public space, of public opinion. He puts it out there, and it's just like, hey, call me, let's talk. Let's end this beef or argument or conflict or disagreement that we're having. And he gets it settled, and that's awesome. I admire him. There are those types of conflicts that he's had with folks that we talked about, and he brought it up. And after recording the next morning, he's like, man, I don't know. We can't put this episode out there. And we had a little back and forth, and I totally understand where he's coming from. The issue at hand was, would this bring up old emotions from people that it's not worth it? And I understand that. And which is why on Wednesday we did not have a new episode. It was, to me, being considered the lost episode. I really had to think about it. I'm like, well, we record this podcast. He knows we're recording this podcast. He knows what we have, and at the end of the day, we're just trying to entertain. Can I edit it or censor it or take some names out or do something that would then still make it a presentable and entertaining product? I really gave it some thought, especially after we got to the release date. And you may have seen on my socials, on my show socials, we put out the sorry something's wrong pieces, because there was something wrong. We were missing an episode, and nothing is out there, although I still anticipating putting an episode out this week. That's what we do. We put an episode out every single week, and we're gaining momentum, right? The show is gaining momentum, and I appreciate everybody who's listening. We're hitting record highs with each new episode, and I firmly believed that the next Lavetti Vegas episode was going to continue that trend, and I know for a fact that what we did record would have done just that. But with that being said, I totally respect Lavetti's feelings on it, so it was all right. Let's not do it. Let's not put that out into the world, right? Then I get to Friday, and I'm like, we're here to entertain. The whole point of Laugh With Me is to entertain. Sometimes we're telling stories. A lot of the stories we tell are in the past, are of the nature of in our past experiences. That's what's entertaining. People love hearing stories. I mean, honestly, it's a lot of Like when we're sitting, when I have my friends on, or we're sitting here talking about various things that we've done or experiences we've had. It's like we're hanging out, having beers. Generally, we're sitting here recording. We are having a beer, and we're laughing and telling stories for people to listen to, and hopefully you find it entertaining. To me, that's what our conversation was with Lavetti and I. We were reminiscing. We were talking about various things that had happened and stories that people would be able to relate to. And I think that there is a lot of people that could relate to the situations that he found himself in, whether by his doing or by other people's doing, and, can learn from it and can, at the same time be entertained, because it was an entertaining conversation. Explosive conversation? Yeah. Yes, it was. But entertaining nonetheless, which is what we do here at Laugh With Me. But before we get to Lavetti Vegas Part 2, the lost episode, today's episode of Laugh With Me is brought to you by the very item that I'm using right now. It's the Mighty Patch, the way to cure your pimples. Believe the hype, Mighty Patch is a smarter way to handle pimples overnight. It works on all skin types, protects you from picking, and extracts impurities. I'll tell you what, it's very simple. You pull these little circle patches. They're little stickers, like little glue dots. You pull them off, and you put them right on top of where you've got a pimple on your face, and you leave it there. Leave it there overnight while you're sleeping. You don't even have to know it's even there. In the morning, you'll peel that little sticker off, and I'll tell you what, that little sticker is going to be full of all that goop, all that white stuff that sits inside your pores, inside the pimple, and cures it for you. It's a beautiful thing, and it allows you to not have to pick at your pimples all day, which anyone who says they don't is a freaking liar. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're a damn liar. Everybody does it, and it's okay to admit this. Hand up right now, hand up. I get pimples, and I know. You're saying, Jeremy, there's no way. There is no way. You're as white as the ghost is white. And how that was the only, comparison I could give you. Because I've seen other ghosts on shows and whatnot, and they're not all white. They're maybe transparent, but they are all shapes and sizes and colors. So how did I come up with ghost? You're as white as a cloud. Just saying. Clear skin sometimes. Not always, though. Not always. Jeremy has stress. Yeah. And when Jeremy's promoting the Mighty Patch, he talks in the third person. Put that little patch on. Takes care of it overnight. It's a beautiful product. You can find it pretty much anywhere you can find skincare. And you gotta believe the hype. The Mighty Patch, not only one of my favorite items that has come into my life in the last few months, it's also a proud sponsor of Laugh With Me, the podcast. Now back to the show. So that's where I had to decide, what are we doing with this 2 hours of explosive and incredible conversation with my friend, Lavetti Vegas. Now, you may have known him as Lavetti Wainwright at one point, because there was like a 2-month stretch. He changed his name. We talked about it in the episode. That's the thing. I wanted him to have a platform to be able to talk about this name change, because he was switched back. He was Lavetti Vegas, then he was Wainwright, and then he's back to Vegas. We had a whole discussion on it. It was great. It was thoughtful. And for those of you that didn't know why he's flip-flopping, one way to the other about his name, we were going to explain all that in the episode. And we did. We sure did. So I felt like I owed it to him. I owed it to the people to put this episode out so that you understood the name change, right? He's had these beefs ongoing as well online that a lot of them have been resolved since we recorded. So it wouldn't have even been an ongoing heated thing, but he brought it up. something so you would have a little more background on, so you knew what was going on. There's another comic in the area, Red Little. We talked about it. So that way you all would understand the background behind what was going on, why it wasn't a beef. It was just a misunderstanding and a disagreement. We talked about it. I felt like we owed it to the people. I owed it to the people to put this conversation out so that you understood what was being seen and what was being heard out at the mics and on Lavetti's Facebook page, which really, that's where it all started. I brought it up. I'm like, your Facebook page sometimes, you bring things up. You come at folks with some stuff, and we talk about it. We talk about that. Kind of clear it up. It made a lot of sense to me after. It was a great conversation. Explosive conversation. But it was a great conversation nonetheless. But either way, Lavetti Vegas. There's like those people in entertainment, that like they're very polarizing. You've got it's like there's a line right down the middle. You have villains and you have heroes, but there's those polarizing figures that there's a line right down the middle, and half the people love them, half the people hate them. There really isn't an in between. It's either you love them or you hate them. And sometimes it feels like Lavetti is one of those polarizing people, which is so fascinating and so interesting. And that's, part of why I love having him on the show, because you get kind of a deeper look into Scientist's brain and just kind of see how he operates. And then once you talk to him, it's like, yeah, I just don't understand. I don't understand how you're so polarizing. I mean, you're a motivated, driven person, entertaining person, creative person, talented person, and maybe people just don't understand the drive or the focus behind it. But in this episode, we talk about it. We break it down. Is it explosive at times? Absolutely. Entertaining, though. Very entertaining. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my special guest this week is Lavetti Vegas.
Just trying to do the damn thing, man. Glad to be back here on the second time.
Thanks for doing the show. I appreciate it. It's always fun talking to you. And
man, always fun, man. All right, well, get at me, man.
Cool.
Nice conversation, man.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Bye. Well, there it is, folks. That's all of the content that I could air. Because there's no way in hell Lavetti was going to have me airing all that. There's just no way. But I'm happy you guys got to hear the parts that we could air. It was fun to chat with him for a couple of hours. And you know what? We're going to have Lavetti on again. And I'm sure we'll talk about this. And we'll get more of clarity on it, that's for sure. So special thanks to Lavetti for being a good sport and for being on the show. We shall do this again. Also, thanks for listening, and we will be back. We are going to be wrapping up season 1 of the Laugh With Me podcast with Jeremy Odom very soon. And remember, you can find us on all of our socials, and season 2 we will be launching on YouTube. So find us on YouTube and subscribe today. Thanks for listening.